The steam rises from coffee cups like small prayers in the October air. You can hear it, the laughter echoing through concrete bunkers carved deep into Italian mountainside. German officers lean over tactical maps, their breath visible in the growing cold, their confidence warm as brandy. "Let them come," one colonel chuckles, gesturing toward the Allied positions below. "Winter fights for us now." The Apennine Mountains stretch before them like sleeping giants, their peaks already dusted white with the first snow of 1943. Behind these ridges lies the winter line, Hitler's impregnable fortress across Italy's spine. Concrete and steel, wire and mines, all blessed by geography itself, dot in the bunkers. Radiators hum against the creeping chill. Maps show red lines drawn with mathematical precision. Every approach covered. Every valley watched. Every path to Rome blocked by mountains that have stood since the world was young. The generals smile as they plan. They have read Hannibal. They know Napoleon's fate in Russia. Winter, they believe, is their oldest ally. Silent, merciless, predictable. It will freeze Allied supply lines. It will ground their aircraft. It will turn their advance into retreat. Outside, the first autumn wind carries the scent of pine and coming snow. It whispers through gun positions and pillboxes, through trenches cut into living rock. The mountain air tastes of confidence and certainty, but mountains keep their own counsel. They have seen armies before, Roman legions and barbarian hordes, emperors and refugees. They have watched men laugh at winter, only to learn that nature never chooses sides. The coffee grows cold in their cups. The laughter fades into the growing darkness. And somewhere high above, the first snowflakes begin their silent descent. Each one, a messenger of what is to come. Dawn breaks gray and bitter over the Apennines. The camera of history pulls back to reveal the scope of German ambition. Concrete bunkers like tumors on the mountainside. Artillery pieces hidden in caves that echo with the sound of preparation. Italian peasants flee south along mountain paths worn smooth by centuries of refugees. Their wooden carts creak under bundles of everything they own. Behind them, engineers work with the focused intensity of men building tombs, their own. Though they don't know it yet, the winter line stretches 150 miles across Italy's narrowest point. From the Tyrrhenian Sea to the Adriatic, concrete and steel marry stone and snow. German pride made manifest in reinforced positions that seem to mock the very idea of defeat. Oberst Heinrich Müller surveys his sector through binoculars, his breath fogging the lenses. Below him, Monte Battaglia rises like a fortress wall. Behind him, machine gun nests burrow into hillsides like metallic wasps. Between them, minefields spread their hidden seeds of death across every approach. "Perfect," he murmurs to his aide. Let the Allies break themselves against these rocks. But even as he speaks, frost forms on the concrete. Hairline cracks appear where summer heat once expanded the bunkers. Water seeps into stone foundations, waiting for winter's call to become ice, and ice to become destruction. The mountains feel it first. Ancient granite sensing the shift in seasons, the turning of the earth toward darkness. Pine trees bend their heads in preparation. Eagles circle higher, reading signs men have forgotten how to see. In the valley below, mules pull ammunition up switchback roads that grow narrower with each turn. Tank tracks slip on morning frost. Engines cough in the thinning air. The mechanized war machine of the Wehrmacht begins its first awkward dance with altitude and weather. The concrete bunkers stand defiant against the sky. But inside them, breath already fogs in the morning air. Condensation beads on steel surfaces. The cold begins its patient work, not dramatic, not announced. Just there. November brings the first real snow, and with it, the end of laughter. You can see them now. German soldiers hunched over small fires. their uniforms dark with moisture from melted snow. Breath streams from their mouths like visible souls trying to escape the cold that wraps around everything. Rifle barrels, bootlaces, the very air itself in the trenches, cut into frozen earth. Men stamp their feet in rhythm, not from discipline, but from desperation. The sound echoes off canyon walls like a drumbeat of approaching doom. Coffee freezes in metal cups before it reaches their lips. Cigarettes burn too fast in the thin air, consumed like prayers whispered in panic. Sergeant Klaus Weber writes in his diary with fingers that barely bend. The cold is not like Russia. This is different. It seeps into your bones and stays there. The field kitchens struggle against physics itself. Soup freezes in serving ladles. Bread hardens into clubs that could double as weapons. Horse-drawn supply wagons slip on ice-covered mountain roads, their cargo scattered across precipices that have no names. Winter reveals the Wehrmacht's first secret shame. They are not prepared. Summer uniforms inadequate. Heating systems designed for buildings, not bunkers. Supply lines stretched across terrain that grows more hostile with each passing day. The machine guns need constant maintenance now. Oil thickens to syrup. Metal contracts, throwing off carefully calibrated mechanisms. Weapons that could fire thousands of rounds in training now jam after dozens. The most advanced army in Europe begins to fight with primitive tools, hand warmers and wool scarves stolen from abandoned villages at night. They burn furniture salvaged from bombed houses. Table legs and chair backs disappear into flames that offer more hope than heat. The smoke rises through ventilation systems designed for summer air, carrying with it the smell of defeat nobody wants to name. Radio reports grow shorter, more terse. Weather delays everything. Reinforcements arrive frostbitten and exhausted. Medical stations overflow with cases that have nothing to do with enemy action. Trench foot, hypothermia, fingers blackened by cold that bites deeper than bullets. The winter line holds. But its defenders begin to understand that holding and winning are not the same thing. Asterisk. December 15th, 1943. The storm arrives without warning, without mercy. You feel it first as pressure, the air itself growing heavy, pregnant with violence. Then the wind begins. Not the gentle breeze of autumn, but something ancient and hungry. Screaming down mountain valleys with the voice of winter itself. Snow falls not in flakes but in sheets. Horizontal blizzards that erase the world in white. Visibility drops to arm's length. Radio signals die in the static of electricity and ice. The winter line disappears into a landscape that recognizes no borders, respects no flags, acknowledges no commanders except the storm itself. In Bunker 47. Lieutenant Hans Kruger watches ice form on the inside walls. The concrete sweats and freezes simultaneously, creating a glaze that makes surfaces treacherous as broken glass. The heating system, designed for garrison duty, gasps and fails. Backup generators cough once, twice, then surrender to the cold. Outside, the storm transforms everything. Supply trucks become metal coffins, their drivers frozen at the wheel with eyes still open, staring at roads they can no longer see. Mules collapse mid-stride, their bodies creating strange sculptures that disappear under drifting snow. The mechanized Wehrmacht, pride of German engineering, becomes medieval overnight. Artillery pieces freeze to their mounts. Tank engines seize. Communication wires snap under the weight of accumulated ice. Orders cannot be given because orders cannot be received. Soldiers abandon their positions not from cowardice, but from physics. Human flesh cannot survive in spaces where metal fractures from cold. They huddle together in whatever shelter they can find. Caves, ruins, shell craters now filled with snow that offers its own insulation. Medical stations report casualties without wounds. Men simply stop moving, stop fighting, stop breathing. Frostbite advances like a slow infection, turning fingers and toes black as charcoal. Doctors perform amputations with instruments that freeze to their hands. The storm continues for 3 days. When it finally passes, the winter line has become something else entirely. Not a military position, but a study in survival. The concrete bunkers stand like monuments to human ambition. Their occupants learning that all the engineering in the world cannot hold back winter when winter decides to come calling. Asterisk. The Allied advance begins not with trumpets, but with the sound of boots crunching through snow. You watch them climb. American and British soldiers moving up slopes that would challenge mountain goats. Their breath creating clouds that hang in the air like battle flags. They advance because they must, but also because the enemy can barely lift frozen fingers to pull triggers. The impregnable winter line cracks not under artillery, but under the weight of human endurance pushed beyond its limits. German positions that held for months abandon themselves. Not retreat, abandonment. Men walking away from concrete bunkers because concrete offers no warmth, no hope, no reason to stay. Major Wilhelm Drescher receives an order to hold Monte Battaglia at all costs. He stares at the message, written on paper that crackles with ice crystals, and wonders what cost could be higher than what they've already paid. Around him, soldiers huddle around fires fed with wooden ammunition boxes. The very tools of war become fuel for survival. The Allied soldiers advance through a wasteland that war alone could never create. They find German positions occupied only by ice and silence. Machine gun nests filled with snow. Artillery pieces abandoned like modern art installations in a gallery of white death. Supply lines that once fed the Wehrmacht now work in reverse, evacuating the living, abandoning the dead, retreating from victories that victory cannot warm. Horse-drawn sledges carry wounded soldiers whose moans freeze in their throats. The roads become rivers of retreat, flowing south toward anything that might offer shelter. Communication breaks down completely. Orders issued in the morning arrive at positions abandoned by noon. Commanders lead units that exist only on paper. The command structure, so precise in summer, becomes a ghost organization haunted by its own efficiency. In field hospitals behind the lines, doctors treat a new kind of warfare casualty. These soldiers have not been shot or shelled. They have been consumed by winter itself. Their stories, when they can tell them, speak not of enemy bullets, but of nights when sleep meant death. Of mornings when rifles had to be thawed before they could fire. The winter line does not fall in the traditional sense. It dissolves like snow in spring rain, leaving behind only the memory of what men thought they could build to hold back nature itself. Asterisk. The letters arrive in German homes like winter itself, slowly, then all at once, carrying news that families were not prepared to read. Mein lieb Martha, writes Jeff writer Otto Steinberg, his pencil leaving marks on paper so cold it threatens to shatter. The cold here is not something you fight. It is something that fights you. You can see them in bunkers and dugouts, these soldiers writing by candlelight that flickers with each breath. Their words change with the temperature. October letters speak of victory and confidence. November brings doubt. December carries only the truth that pride could no longer hide. Feldwebel, Ernst Kohler's letter to his wife, arrives 3 weeks late, carried by supply runners who trek through snow that reaches their waists. Today I watched Werner die, he writes. Not from bullets, from cold. He just sat down and would not get up again. We left him there because we had to. The cold makes choices for you. The military censors struggle with these letters. How do you maintain morale at home when the front sends messages of defeat by weather? How do you edit hope into words that speak only of endurance? Some letters never leave the mountains, burn for fuel when firewood runs out. Anna, Drescher receives her husband's final letter on Christmas Eve. The paper bears water stains that might be snow, might be tears. The war has stopped making sense, he writes. We hold positions that hold nothing. We guard roads that lead nowhere. The enemy is not the Americans or British. The enemy is winter, and winter cannot be defeated by armies. These letters, intercepted by Allied intelligence, reveal the collapse of something more than military positions. They document the disintegration of certainty itself. Soldiers who marched into Italy believing in inevitable victory now write home asking what victory could possibly mean in a place where survival itself is impossible. Some families never receive letters at all. The men who would have written them lie frozen in positions they died defending, their final thoughts locked in ice. Their last words spoken only to the wind. But perhaps most telling are the letters that do arrive, written by men who have learned to measure success not in territory gained but in nights survived, not in enemies killed but in fingers that still bend, in toes that still feel, in hearts that still beat despite everything winter can do to stop them. Asterisk. January 8th, 1944. The blizzard descends like divine intervention. You cannot see your hand in front of your face. The world becomes white noise, not metaphor but literal truth. Snow falls so thick it absorbs sound itself. Artillery pieces fire blind into nothingness. Machine guns chatter at ghost dot in this whiteout. Something unprecedented happens. The war stops. Not ceasefire, not armistice. Simple physical impossibility. German soldiers cannot see Allied positions. Allied soldiers cannot find German bunkers. The mountain battlefield becomes a shared void where enemies bump into each other and apologize before recognizing uniforms. Somewhere in the void between Monte Battaglia and Hill 860, a German soldier named Friedrich stumbles through knee-deep snow, lost, his unit scattered by the storm. It carries a white cloth, not for surrender, but for navigation. Something, anything visible in the endless white dot. An American sergeant named Tommy Morrison sees the cloth first. In any other moment, this would be a target. Today, it is simply another human being fighting the same impossible battle against weather that recognizes no nationality. They stare at each other across 20 yards of swirling snow. Neither raises his weapon. Both understand, without words, that today the cold is killing more soldiers than bullets. In this moment, survival trumps ideology. Friedrich points toward a cluster of rocks that might offer shelter. Morrison nods. They move toward it together, enemies united by the democracy of hypothermia. Neither speaks the other's language, but both speak the universal language of desperate need for warmth. Around them, the battle ceases to exist. Tanks cannot move in snow this deep. Aircraft cannot fly in visibility measured in inches. Radio communications collapse under the weight of static and storm. The most technologically advanced war in human history becomes primitive. Personal, immediate in shelter positions throughout the mountains. Soldiers from both sides make the same calculation. Today, staying alive matters more than staying victorious. They burn whatever will burn. They share whatever warmth they can create. They huddle together in spaces where enemy and ally become meaningless distinctions. The storm lasts 18 hours. When it clears, both armies emerge changed. They have experienced something beyond war, the absolute indifference of nature to human conflict. In that indifference, they have found something approaching wisdom. Asterisk. March arrives with the cruelest gift of all, clarity. General Heinrich von Wiedinghoff tours what remains of his winter line in a staff car that slides more than drives on roads turned to mud by spring thaw. The windows fog with his breath, but the view outside needs no enhancement. The wreckage speaks for itself. You see it through his eyes, positions that once seemed impregnable, now revealed as monuments to miscalculation. Concrete bunkers sit empty as tombs, their interiors decorated with ice formations that hang like chandeliers in a frozen ballroom. Artillery pieces rust where they were abandoned, their barrels split by frost that no engineer had calculated into their design. The smell hits him first when he steps from the car. Not the clean smell of snow or the fresh scent of pine, but something else. The odor of an army that has learned to burn anything combustible, including hope itself. Wood smoke mingles with the metallic scent of equipment failure and the organic decay of dreams left too long in the cold. His aide, Hauptmann Fischer, points to position after position. Abandoned here, sir. Evacuated there. Medical casualties here, all weather-related. The litany continues like a prayer recited in reverse, each word undoing months of careful planning. Field reports pile on the general's desk like accusations. Frostbite casualties, 3,847. Equipment failures due to cold, countless. Positions abandoned due to weather, 17 major installations, 42 minor ones. Men lost to hypothermia. The numbers stopped making sense after the first 100. He remembers the laughter from October. Officers joking about winter as their ally, about cold as their secret weapon. The irony tastes like metal in his mouth. Winter was indeed a weapon, but weapons do not choose sides. In the ruins of Bunker Complex 7, he finds something that stops him cold. Graffiti scratched into concrete by soldiers who knew they were dying. Not propaganda slogans or patriotic phrases, but simple human words. Anna, I love you. Tell my mother I tried. Winter wins. The tour continues through a landscape that looks like the aftermath of an apocalypse. Supply depots emptied not by enemy action, but by desperate men burning anything that would burn. Vehicle parks filled with machines that seized in cold too severe for German engineering to survive. His final stop, a cemetery where graves are marked, not with names, but with serial numbers. Too many bodies, too much frozen ground, too little time for the dignity of individual recognition. The Wehrmacht, once the most efficient military machine in history, reduced to mass burial in numbered plots. When he returns to headquarters, General von Wiedinghoff writes his final assessment in words that will echo through military history. The winter line was broken not by Allied superiority, but by our failure to recognize that nature does not serve human ambition. They come down from the mountains like survivors of an ad. Expedition to the edge of the world. You see them. First as dark shapes against melting snow. Columns of German soldiers walking south with the peculiar gait of men whose feet have forgotten warmth. They carry white flags not of surrender to the Allies, but of surrender to winter itself. Their uniforms tell the story that no report could capture. Feldgrau bleached gray by snow and sun. Leather boots cracked like dry riverbeds. Metal insignia green with oxidation from months of freezing and thawing. These are not the soldiers who laughed in October bunkers. These are men remade by weather into something humbler. More human. Captain James McCarthy of the American 5th Army watches them approach his position near Anzio. He has been briefed to expect hardened Wehrmacht veterans, fanatic defenders of the Hitler's mountain fortress. Instead, he sees walking testimonies to the limits of human endurance. Their faces bear the signature of winter, warfare, skin burned dark by reflected sunlight off snow, eyes squinted permanently against glare, cheeks hollowed by months of inadequate nutrition. Many walk on feet wrapped in newspaper because their boots disintegrated weeks ago. The surrender ritual, so formal in training manuals, becomes something gentler. German officers offer their sidearms to American counterparts who recognize the futility of ceremony. These weapons are often frozen to their holsters, metal welded by cold to leather and flesh. In the processing tents, American medics discovered the true cost of the winter line. Frostbite has claimed fingers and toes with surgical precision. Hypothermia has left men with hearts that beat irregularly, lungs that struggle with oxygen, brains that sometimes forget where they are. What happened up there? McCarthy asks through an interpreter. The German colonel, his name tag too faded to read, looks toward the mountains that still glitter white in the distance. Winter happened, he says. We thought we could use it. Instead, it used us. The Allied field hospitals become temples of reverse engineering. American doctors working to repair damage that no bullet had caused. Frozen hands require massage to restore circulation. Damaged feet need amputation to prevent gangrene. Minds fractured by months of impossible cold need time to remember that warmth exists. But perhaps most remarkable is what the medics don't find: hatred. These German soldiers, defeated by weather rather than war, seem grateful for the simple miracle of heated tents, hot food, medical care that comes without the threat of death by freezing. Some will return to Germany. Others will disappear into prisoner of war camps until peace returns to Europe. But all carry with them the knowledge that armies, like snowflakes, melt when spring finally comes. 50 years later. The mountains remember everything. You can find them there. Old men returning to battlefields that exist now only in memory, and rusted metal scattered among alpine flowers. German veterans and American soldiers walking together up paths they once crossed as enemies. United now by the democracy of age and the shared understanding of what winter can do to human ambition. Hans Müller, once Oberstmüller of the Wehrmacht, stands at the site of his former command bunker. The concrete has cracked and crumbled, invaded by mountain wildflowers that bloom purple and yellow in spaces where men once huddled around failing heaters. Nature has reclaimed its territory with the patience of geological time. Beside him, former Captain James McCarthy points to hillsides where American soldiers advanced through snow that reached their chests. The tactical significance has faded, but the memory of cold remains vivid as yesterday. 40 below, he says. 40 below, and we kept climbing. They share stories now that were classified for decades. Müller speaks of the morning he found an entire machine gun crew frozen at their posts, hands still gripping weapons that would never fire again. McCarthy describes soldiers who cried when they reached heated tents. Not from pain, but from relief. So overwhelming, it broke something inside them. The local Italian guides who lead these veteran tours know the real history. They show visitors shell craters that have become pools for mountain wildlife. They point to trees that grew around abandoned military equipment. Bark healing over shrapnel like skin over old wounds. In the village of San Pietro, a small museum displays artifacts that frost preserved better than any archive. German letters written on paper that still crackles with cold. American photographs that capture the moment when confidence died. Equipment designed by engineers who never imagined that metal could simply give up under conditions their calculations had not anticipated. The museum's guestbook contains entries in multiple languages, but they all say variations of the same thing. Winter taught us that nature always has the final word. A German entry, written in shaking handwriting, reads, "We came to these mountains believing we could command them. We learned that mountains command themselves." An American veteran's family left this note. "My grandfather never talked about the cold. Now I understand why. Some memories are too big for words." But perhaps the most profound testament sits in a glass case near the museum's exit. A piece of concrete from a winter lime bunker, split cleanly in half by frost. The crack runs perfectly straight, as if nature had used a ruler to demonstrate the precision of its power. The placard beneath it reads, simply, "Empires fall the moment they believe they can command the weather." Outside, snow begins to fall again. The mountains settle deeper into winter's embrace. And somewhere in the wind that moves through abandoned positions, you can almost hear it. Not laughter anymore, but something quieter, wiser, more humble. The sound of understanding arrived too late to matter, but just in time to remember. Asterisk. The fire of arrogance dies in mountain wind. The laughter of October becomes the silence of March. Spring thaw reveals not just bodies and broken equipment, but the remains of human certainty, melted and scattered across slopes that remember everything and forgive nothing. In the end, the frost keeps its own accounting, and the ledger always balances. Asterisk, asterisk.